Greetings, students, and welcome to this special edition of The Professor Travel Domestic Edition. I am your host, The Professor Travel, coming to you from Orange County, California. This is the website, the vlog, and the podcasts that you come to in order to learn more about different travel destinations. This is where you come as a community in order to discuss them. Hopefully, this will inspire you to travel more and ultimately to enjoy life more. Now, you can reach me on a variety of different social media platforms, starting, of course, with my website, which is at theprofessortravel.com. On YouTube, on Facebook, and now on TikTok, you can reach me at The Professor Travel. If you're an Instagrammer, you can find me there at the_professor_travel. If you're a Twitter, then you can find me on Twitter at The Professor TR1. And then finally, if you're a blogger, you can find me on Blogspot, located at theprofessortravel.blogspot.com. Today, I have two visiting professors with me, Ronnie and Teresa Gilbert from the Traveling Gilberts. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Good,
How are
good.
you?
Oh, I'm doing great. We're having a wonderful morning here. The fires have stopped in Southern California finally. So yay for that. Now, before we get started, I have a quick question for you. This wonderful picture that we have on the screen right now, of course, my podcasters won't hear this, but they can go on YouTube in order to find it. You guys have a lovely picture here. Is there a story behind this picture?
That is actually, we're bellied up to a bar in New Orleans at the Blue Nile canteen, I guess you would say. It's the Blue Nile bar.
We were going to see Kermit Ruffins that night.
Yeah, Kermit Ruffins, the famous trumpeter.
Wow. Well, very nice. And that's what the focus of this entire vlog and podcast is going to be on, the state of Louisiana. So I hope you guys are going to be able to teach me a little bit about your wonderful state. And I would love to learn a little bit more about that. But before we even dive into that, just for the benefit of my students that are listening and watching, can you give us a little bit about your background, maybe some educational background or some places that you traveled?
Good.
We've traveled a lot, actually. Most people, they don't travel in their own state, but we do. We have covered every corner of the state, but we also cruise. So we've been out of the country several times. Just recently, we went to the Smoky Mountains. So we've kind of expanded it, in the U.S. We've been a few places in the U.S., but not as much as we have here, obviously.
No.
I sell insurance. I work for State Farm, and I went to college at the U of A in Northwest Arkansas for about that long. And then I came back home and been here ever since.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I was born and raised here, like 20 miles up the road. I mean, basically, I've been here in this area. Me and Teresa got married. I said, I'm not going to leave the state, don't you? I said, so I'm just going to let you know I'm a Louisiana boy. And she's like, well, fine, I ain't planning on going nowhere.
As long as we travel out of it.
Yeah, but we love to travel in the state, out of the state. And we got big plans in the future to make some big trips. But
Italy's coming up.
Italy, yeah.
Been there several times. I love it. That's one of my favorite spots. Where are you planning to go there?
We're actually going to go to Venice and Bologna, Florence, Pisa, and the Cinque Terre.
We're going to
hike.
You guys are going to love it. I've been there, as I said, I've been there 3 times, and every time I go there, it gets even better and better. I'm a foodie, so that's kind of like one of my preferred spots. So, but enough about that. This is all about Louisiana. So let's focus on Louisiana today. Now, I know virtually nothing about the history of Louisiana. So can you guys share with me some general knowledge about what you know, and since you've been there a lot longer than I have?
Well, sure. It was, back in the old days, if you want to get back in the pirate days, you had the pirate Jean Lafitte. He actually hid out in the in the Gulf.
In the swamps.
And then
supposedly treasure down there somewhere.
Yeah, there's supposedly all the treasure. And, they based himself out of New Orleans. And, the trade, the slave trade, and all these different things back in the day. And New Orleans changed hands so many times back in the day. It went from the French to the Spanish.
Yeah, a lot of the houses and the homes and the buildings are all Spanish influenced because we were owned by Spain.
Right. And like I said, it just changed hands here, and there. Then, of course, the War of 1812 back in the day settled everything.
Purchase.
Yeah, and the big Louisiana Purchase, which all of a sudden we're just a boot instead of a waiter. We're just this, but we were, it was huge. And what was it? 5 cents an acre or something like that.
Yeah,
Something
I don't even
ridiculous. But it was so much of it. It was millions of dollars at the time when they actually bought it. But yeah, that's basically about all we really know. I mean, of course, the different people that own, you have the Spanish, the French, the English, all these people, and it's a melting pot to this day down there. You have French
was definitely the biggest influence. I mean, you know, even today, a lot of people still speak French. Right. I mean, of course, it's Cajun French, but
yeah, that's a little different thing.
And I definitely want to get into that, talking about that in a second. But on a more recent historical level, I mean, obviously, you know, you get the things like the oil spill that happened off the coast, and then you have the hurricane. You know, Katrina obviously had a serious impact on the economy to Louisiana. But apart from that, any other notable things within the last maybe 30, 40 years?
Well, the main thing that is it's worrisome year round, every year is the erosion. We have erosion, and we're losing part of Louisiana. I mean, the sole of the boot is basically gone, and it's coming up to our feet, you know, and they try to do the best that they can do, but it's so hard. It's so hard.
Yeah.
Well, this year alone, we've had 2 hurricanes come in, even up all the way up to North Louisiana. I mean, like I told you, I sell insurance, so I also have to deal with the claims, but it did a lot of damage. Both hurricanes back to back did a lot of damage. His brother actually lives down in Sulphur, which is just south of Lake Charles. Okay. And I mean, completely destroyed. Didn't get as much publicity as New Orleans did from Katrina, but it was.
Yeah, I know Katrina gets a lot of, and it was a bad storm, don't get me wrong, but, you know, there was a storm called Rita right behind it. And Rita, you know, hit Lake Charles and just tore it up. I mean, it really did. It was just, there was I remember there was a Holly Beach, this, you know, little Cajun little beach down in the very bottom down there that had all the little trailer houses and a store and all this stuff. And we went down there after, and there's nothing there. I don't know where it went. There was, I mean, it was just the beach, and everything was gone, and it was horrible. But Katrina, the thing about Katrina was it wasn't just the hurricane; it was the levee broke.
Yes,
so when it was the levee that was the big thing. I mean, of course, the hurricane was bad, blowing out the windows and all these kinds of things. But when that levee broke and flooded New Orleans, that was the major.
We
thing.
weren't prepared.
They weren't prepared. No.
That's so unfortunate. But let's talk about the beautiful geography of Louisiana. I mean, because when I think of geography in terms of Louisiana, the 2 things that really come up are the actual city of New Orleans, which is like a huge sprawling metropolis, and then you have the bayou. Those are the things that really come to mind. But I mean, it's more than that. I mean, like, what are other like geographical foundations within Louisiana, would you say?
Well, I would say there's swamp everywhere. I mean, New Orleans is basically you can drive, you know, 10 minutes to the left or right or north, and you're going to hit some kind of swamp in the bayou and all these kinds of things. But up here in North Louisiana, you know, it's flat land. We have lakes and ponds and swamps too, but we have a lot of farmland. We have a lot of you go toward Shreveport and Ruston and all these different places where Louisiana Tech is over there. It's a lot of pine trees. It's a lot of pine, you know, clay, dirt, and
nothing prettier than looking over a field of cotton, though. I mean, when you could see that white cotton just sprawled out for miles, it's beautiful.
Right, cotton and corn. They're doing all kinds of things now. It's awesome.
What are the other states that border Louisiana, for those of my viewers who are not familiar with the area?
Texas, Arkansas, Mississippi.
Yeah. Texas to our left, Arkansas up above, and Mississippi to the east of us.
Okay. And then weather, obviously we made mention of the hurricanes, storms during the majority of the year, like lightning, like full on thunder and lightning storms. Yeah. Are there any other extreme weather conditions, like things like water spouts, tornadoes, anything like that at all?
Well, tornadoes, but the main extreme weather condition is the heat. People think it gets hot. I mean, I was in Las Vegas in the middle of the summer and it was hot. It is nothing like it is here, though. Even our 95 degrees compared to their 115 is not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same. because of the humidity.
Yeah, it's you're wringing wet. I mean, if you stay
Just
out,
walk into your car.
yeah, if you stay out for any amount of time in the dead of the summer, I mean, it's hot and it stays hot. I mean, we're talking about lows at night in the upper 70s. That's the low. That's without the sun. So you can imagine when the sun pops out what it's going to be like, and it's going to be bad.
Yeah, we'll hear other bloggers going, "Oh, yeah, we're fixing to go to New Orleans, you know, in the middle of the summer for a cruise. We're going to spend a couple days there." And we're like, "Yeah, good luck."
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, because I've never been to New Orleans and I've been dying to go there, and obviously that's a major cruise port and stuff like that. There's some great opportunities there. Living in Louisiana, is it one of those things where do you get used to the humidity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. They, I know whenever I do my mail route, or of course I drive in my mail truck now. I used to walk, but
no air. There's no air in this
no
truck.
air. But anyway,
Oh my gosh.
they'll say, "Oh my God, it's 99 degrees." And I said, "Well, ma'am, you know, anything past 95 is basically just the same. It's hot. It's what we got to deal with." So, yeah, but thank you for telling me how hot it was.
Well, no, the reason I've been all over the country and I've lived in a variety of places. I've lived in California and Jersey and Maryland and Arizona. So like you were saying, yeah, in Arizona, it could be like 120 degrees out, which people think, "Oh my gosh, that's the worst weather." But if I get under an awning, all of a sudden it drops 20 degrees because you don't have that humidity. It's just direct heat. And so if I'm under some kind of a protective awning or something like that, then it's not a big deal. And everywhere out there is air conditioned, so that's not even a problem. But when I have, as I said, I haven't visited Louisiana, but I have visited Florida. I've visited Bangkok as well, in Hawaii, all of which have really, really super huge humidity factors. And I can tell you, humidity just literally sucks the life out of you because well, I mean, not literally, but I mean, it does feel like it feels oppressive because you're going out and it's like, breathing is so, it's almost like swimming in the air. Sometimes it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, that's a good description of it.
And I think that's why the farming is so good here, because there's this, you know, you're like in a greenhouse. You're just,
the land is very rich.
Yes, and you can go way down south where the Mississippi, along the Mississippi to the old plantation homes, and there are actually banana trees that are thriving, and palm trees, and all these different kinds of things that's been there for hundreds of years.
But you would think Caribbean
But
only.
yeah, it looks Caribbean down there. It's like, really, you know, it's amazing.
Let me ask you guys really quickly. I mean, this is kind of an off-topic question, but I'm curious. When you guys go cruising, do you typically leave out of New Orleans, or do you go to other cruise ports, and that's like really more of your foundation?
We've only cruised out of New Orleans.
We have others planned.
We have some planned for next year, actually, if they cruise again.
Yeah,
but
keep your fingers crossed.
Yeah, but we've only went out of New Orleans.
Excellent. All right, well, let's talk about one of my favorite topics, which is the culture of your region. Now, with respect to culture, it breaks down to a lot of different things, starting, of course, with religion. Now, I know there's a huge Catholic contingency within Louisiana, but there's also a Southern Baptist as well. Other really far-flung religions that are out there include things like Santeria and voodoo and stuff like that, which is it's very Hollywoodized, I guess is the way I'd put it, because it's always in there. But I mean, is that really a big thing?
It's a thing. It's not a spoken thing. It's a backwoods over here. I'm gonna go to Miss So and So because I need a little help with something.
Okay.
It is a thing, but it's kind of a inter Louisiana thing. I mean, everybody in Louisiana not privy, but it's kind of a local, you know, mama said, "Go see this gal," you know, and she's going to help me out with this chicken foot. But yeah, there's a Catholicism basically huge below Alexandria. Mm-hmm. Above Alexandria to Monroe, in that area, I would say Pentecostal is the
Baptist and Pentecostal, yeah.
Yeah, and then you have Southern Baptist in the very north, you know. But yeah, I would say basically from the tip of the boot, I call Louisiana the boot because it's shaped like a boot, and it kind of gives you I don't know, a visual, I guess. I'd say from the toe to the heel up to Alexandria, Catholicism, you know, and then basically in the mid boot would be Pentecostal, and not just Pentecostal, but the breakoffs of Pentecostal, like Assemblies of God and Christian, whatever, they want to name it. So they won't have to follow the rules of the Pentecostal church, but they want to still kind of do that.
No pants, women only wear skirts, arms covered, that type of thing.
Yeah, but I want my wife to wear pants, so I'm going to make this church, there is a lot of that. I mean, there is a lot of those little churches, apostolic churches and all these different kinds of things. A lot of different kinds. It really is.
It's very interesting because I'm very agnostic to different types of religions, but when I travel, especially traveling over the world, I love going to religious sites. I love going to churches and cathedrals because to me it's really absorbing the history and really getting a flair for the local, for the local people. When I go to the Vatican, for example, it's very different than when I went to Russia and went to the Church of the Resurrection, which is all done. They don't have any tapestries or any pictures inside there. It's all done with tile because of the whole horrible climate, which is in Russia. And so I wasn't sure if in Louisiana, because of the humidity, if they have to do anything about that as well in terms of that, or do they just, it's pretty much like any other church that you'll see.
I don't really know on that part of it. I don't guess I've really noticed, but St. Louis Cathedral, you've got to see it when you go to New Orleans. It's a must see. Yeah. And there's a lot of cathedrals similar on a smaller scale throughout the state, but as far as using different material and so forth, I don't know.
I know they have art there, and a lot of, I would say, stained glass would be the art in a lot of it, because I know they have, isn't it in St. Louis where they have the 12 apostles in stained glass up on both sides, and stuff like that, more so than just an actual piece of art,
Ursulines, that's a beautiful one too.
Yeah, Ursuline.
They have the big ceiling, everything's painted there.
A lot of gold, that kind of thing, the golds and really the architecture is the art, I would say.
Very nice. So speaking of art, let's continue on that same topic. When I was looking for individuals within the state that really stood out to me in terms of famous artists, sculptors, dancers, musicians, writers, I was really having kind of a hard time finding a lot of that stuff. Obviously I think in terms of jazz and a lot of the things that, come out of New Orleans. I'm just not a huge jazz fan. So, is there any singers, songwriters, actors, anything that stands out to you, people from Louisiana?
Just one of the biggest country artists around.
That I actually went to school with, Mr. Tim McGraw. He's from Stark, Louisiana, where I actually went to high school. And we went to school together. And
Anne Rice is a famous author.
Oh, yeah, the writer. Totally. I forgot about that.
George Rodriguez is probably the biggest.
Rodriguez. The Blue Dog.
The Blue Dog picture, that's a big thing here. The painting of the Blue Dog. I don't know if you've seen that, but he has a Blue Dog restaurant, and of course he's passed on now. But the older lady, I can't remember her name, that used to paint the little simple.
Oh.
She didn't. I can't remember her name for anything, so I'm not even going to go into it. But anyway, you got Sammy Kershaw. He was a big country singer. You had Chubby Checker lived here.
Cool.
John Goodman lives here.
Okay.
Several big names that come out of here as far as Louis Armstrong. You can go back.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. I didn't know if he actually lived there or if he was born there. I didn't know that for certain.
You could just go back to the jazz days. Harry Connick Jr. lives here. He started as a child actually in the bars of New Orleans, and
Jerry Lee Lewis
and all that bunch. They lived right down here in Faraday. Mickey Gilley, the first cousins. Mickey Gilley, Jimmy Swaggart. They were all from Faraday, which is just.
We have a lot of colorful characters that have come out of Louisiana.
Yeah, a lot of them.
But you know what? You're educating me because, again, I'm not a big country fan. I have to apologize to my students out there. I'm actually allergic to it. It makes me itch. But it's good to know that there's a lot of wonderful culture in terms of that. And, I'm willing to give it a try if I go down there, just check it out. Now, the other thing I think of in terms of culture is the language. With most of the states that we come across in the Union, English is the predominant language, but there is a little bit of a caveat with Louisiana, and you guys have, I guess, a Creole or like a Cajun type of dialect that's really pronounced because of the French-speaking population. Is that correct?
It is. I know we have accents now, and
Even different.
yeah,
We were raised in the same area.
yeah.
Everybody
I
speaks
can
so
go
differently.
down to my brother's house, which is in Sulphur, and all of a sudden I'll come back home and I'll have a little something going on with the way I speak. It's very you can catch up, and all of a sudden I'll start talking like this, and I'll be hey, how you going, that kind of thing, and then, the heck are you doing? I'm like, damn.
It's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot, I didn't realize it. We
But it's
sometimes pick up on it. I'm sorry, go ahead, Teresa.
school in at Nicholls State in Thibodeau,
Mhm.
and they thought he sounded Australian.
They thought he
And
was
it's
from
like
Australia.
he's like 2 hours up the road,
Yeah.
and they're thinking
Yeah.
they said he's Australian sounding to them, but we're
It's
all
really,
different.
it's really interesting, and I'm always curious to find out for people who don't live in California, because I tend to think I don't have an accent, but that's my own perception. I was thinking from your perspective, I must have an accent of some sort.
It's all
And
north. Anything other than us, it's just a northern accent.
okay.
Yeah. You could be next door, and it's like, yeah, it's northern.
So if I start speaking with you, you're not like, oh, well, that guy is specifically from California. Unless I start speaking like Valley speak, which is like, oh, dude, like totally whatever,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
That's a big thing here in California. And I often call people interchangeably dude. I call my mother dude. I call my partner dude. So I mean, it's like whatever. It is what it is. Uh, I'm just crazy like that. Now onto the topic at hand, the big one, my favorite in the entire world, food. New Orleans is the place to go for food within probably the entire continental United States. Talk to me about some of your favorite dishes that are local delicacies and different things that you guys have from Louisiana.
Well, first of all, he had it wrong. That's not the best place to go eat.
No, absolutely
The
not.
best place to go eat is my kitchen.
Oh, so sorry.
Yeah.
Places.
Mama's kitchen, his mama's kitchen, grandma's kitchen.
That's where you get your real food.
That's where it's at. Yeah. Hopefully you'll get invited over here to so and so's place for the big
For the red
whatever.
beans and rice.
Yeah.
Or Ronnie makes well, he did every Christmas. We lost my mother last year, but her request every year is he going to make the coubillon? And I go, well, I guess he will. You want it? Well, if he wants to make it, which is it's like a fish soup.
Okay.
Yeah, like I would say.
Yeah.
But anyway, the from shrimp and grits to gumbo to jambalaya, crawfish etouffee, crawfish cornbread, fried shrimp. I know over in
alligator cheesecake.
Yeah, alligator cheesecake. Yeah, there's a place over in Shreveport called Herbie K's that makes shrimp buster po' boys, and they will flatten out, shrimp as big as your fist, come up, and there's just so much. I mean, there's so much good food in New Orleans, and the thing about New Orleans is you do not have to go to the major tourist restaurants to get the good food. You don't have to go to I will go to Antoine's, but I don't want to spend that kind of cash all the time. But Antoine's, Galatoire's, Commander's Palace, they're Court of Two Sisters. These places all get the the media, but you can walk to a convenience store on Royal. Yes. Go to the back of this convenience store and get a po' boy that will blow your mind. I mean, it's that kind of thing. And
what's the name of that one?
That one's the Verdi Mart, and it is 24/7. Go buy my cigarette place, but in the back is the great food. I mean, it's just there's so much of it that you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to have a great meal.
It just seems like there's such a huge variety, and I'm wondering if it's because there's such a French influence there that food has been such a huge part of Louisiana culture for so long.
It was the slave culture. When the slaves from Haiti and all the different places in Africa and all these different things brought that food in, but you only had shrimp and oysters and all these things to put in that food. And all of a sudden you come up with something that was amazing. But New Orleans aside, if you was to go, 50 miles over or 70, whatever it is, over to Lafayette, all of a sudden you're eating a different thing.
Yeah.
You're eating boudin and cracklins
Oh.
and these type of things and turduckens and
I'm familiar with turduckens.
yeah, you're eating good home cooking over there. I mean, most people talk about, I wouldn't go to a convenience store and eat anything basically, but the convenience stores is where it's at. They're in the back. They're making the boudin, and every store, every person has their own recipe of how they put this thing together. You can actually go online and look up the boudin trail, and it'll have them ranked from A to F, and where you can get it, and who's got the best, and what it tastes like, and how the casing snaps, and it's like a big thing. And of course, cracklins is basically pork skins, but it's got meat on the end of it. So everybody has their own place they like to go get those too. So
as you go further up north, are the recipes like completely different, or?
We have those recipes, but you're going to get more of a hunter's mentality. You're going to be eating deer steak and rabbit and squirrel and raccoon and the pot roast and all these different kinds of things, pork chops and gravy and biscuits and that kind of thing. You're going to get
tomato gravy and egg gravy,
chocolate gravy, tomato gravy, all these different kinds of really home cooked
meals. Love our rice and gravy.
Yeah. So these are farmers here. These people were trying to make do with what they had, and a lot of we were just talking about this the other day, talking about the cat head biscuits. Everybody calls a cat head biscuit, but it's really a biscuit made with water instead of milk because you didn't have the money for the milk, and that's why it's tacky on top and looks like basically a cat head when mama pulled her fingers up, Yeah, there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of hunters. They eat a pig from the, what do they call it, the rooter to the tutor. I mean, they eat every little piece of it, all of it.
Yeah.
So.
I have a question. Are beignets a thing just around New Orleans, or is that something that's throughout the state?
It's statewide, but New Orleans is most famous for it. But yeah, you can get them anywhere.
Yeah, you can get them a lot of different places. It's not a home thing. It's not something you would cook at home. Basically, what we would do is take an old can of what we call whop biscuits, the canned biscuits, and cut the hole out with a cap of some sort and make a donut out of it, fry it up, and then put powdered sugar on it, and that would be our thing.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I'm sorry, I'm such a huge foodie. It's my go-to. So it's
we are too.
It really makes me happy.
Well, I would make things before me and Teresa were married. I would make things like red beans and rice, and then I would make this or that or whatever. And then Teresa started, cooking the red beans and rice, and I'm like, well, I'll never make that again because yours
is the recipe better? Oh yeah, I was like, recipe's a little different or better, worse.
So you're just better, so I won't do that again. But I basically have given it all to her except maybe the biscuits. I make biscuits, so.
No, he's like the fancy cook. Like I said, the coubillons and oh gosh, you made those crab cake things last Christmas. Oh my gosh, he does the fancy stuff. I got something on the stove for you.
Yeah, she's the everyday cook. I'll take all day to cook. So,
do you guys ever try or make like what I would consider unique meat type items, whether it's snake or whether it's alligator or anything like that? Ever try it or no?
Now, alligator, you can get the meat in the stores here. I mean, it's like $12 a pound, I think it is. And we eat it. Well, I don't think we've ever cooked it.
I don't think I have either.
But I would.
Because we don't hunt it. I mean, you have to get drawn every year to hunt alligator. So, you go like in a big pot, and if you're not drawn, you don't get to hunt.
But I would try it. I eat it. I haven't cooked it, but we've eaten it a ton of times. Any festival around here, you can get alligator on a stick, that kind of thing. It's like instead of a corn dog.
Yeah.
And of course they'll have their cracklins and all the different festivals. Festivals are huge here. I mean, they'll have a festival for any little thing,
Now, one of the meats that I have never tried and you can go online, you can look it up, but down south, they do eat what it's called nutria-rats. It's spelled like nutria rats, but it's called nutria-rats. And it's a big, huge rat, basically. And
like a beaver with a skinny tail.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They eat those.
Yeah. You'll have to go on and look up some of that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've never tried that. I don't know if I could.
But you know what? Honestly, I think I'm learning a little bit more from you on this. It's like when I've traveled the world, I've learned that there's different types of travelers who will either stick with established restaurants and those that'll go for more street food, and there's kind of a combination. It sounds like what you're saying is don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to, go to the back of that 7-Eleven or wherever the convenience store and try some of the, like the po' boy or something like that that's back there and stuff like that. It sounds like you're saying that you can get a lot of just down home cooking from pretty much anywhere that's around there.
And some of probably the best cooking you've ate.
Yeah.
It will be at these little mom and pop stores.
I guess what we're really saying is don't get trapped into the tourist traps, because that's what it is. I mean,
it's good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if you want to, there's little tricks of the trade. You don't have to go to Antoine's, the restaurant, to get the famous oysters Rockefeller. You can go around the corner to the Hermes bar where they serve the same menu. You can go off the street in your shorts and go in there and get you a beer.
They're cooking it at Antoine's and bringing it serving it to you in Hermes bar.
Yeah. So you can just get oysters. You don't have to put a suit on. You can have your short pants on and walk in off the street and say, hey.
And you're not going to spend $300 either.
Exactly.
But you know what? That's actually a really good point. And it's something I'd like to also bring out to my students as well. When you're traveling the world, sometimes the most tourist locked places can provide the worst experiences for food. For example, like you were saying, you guys are looking to go to Italy. I have been to Venice twice now. And this last time I went, I was ready for an amazing food experience. The first day I got there, went to this one touristy spot right in St. Mark's Square. And the pizza they serve there, I swear I could make it in a microwave. It was terrible. And then when you get more into the back areas, the non-touristy spots or the kind of hidden alcoves that are around the area, that's where you get things that you will never have in the United States, because I can't even describe them. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say like my local pizza place is probably a 4. Then I go to New York or Chicago and the pizza there is like, oh, now you're talking like an 8, 9, maybe even 10 in some cases. Then you go to Italy and it's not even, I don't even know how to describe it. It's so, they must put crack in this stuff. I don't know. It's just amazingly good. So yeah. So to my students that are out there, I would say, definitely be mindful of having those out of the way experiences, because they can be fantastic and you will learn a lot from that experience. It'll last you for a lifetime. Absolutely. So moving on just a little bit here. I understand that you guys have a little bit of a sports team down in New Orleans or down in just Louisiana in general.
We do.
Who dat?
Who dat?
Who dat?
Who dat?
So who are these New Orleans Saints people? I understand they've been to the Super Bowl.
They are, they won that Super Bowl, and we should have been a time or two since then, but that's okay. We have the greatest quarterback that ever lived, Drew Brees.
Drew Brees will be governor one day.
He'll be the governor of Louisiana as soon as he retires. I mean, it's that we love our football. I mean, it's from Friday night high school to Saturday night college to Sunday at noon professional. I mean, it's just
LSU and the Saints. That's the team.
You bleed purple and gold on Saturday and gold and black on Sunday. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Any other large sports teams besides football? I mean, football is obviously the big draw there, but I mean, any other like basketball?
You have the New Orleans Pelicans, which is the NBA team down in New Orleans. That's we had Anthony Davis for a split second, and then he went on down the road. But now we have Zion Williams, who's the best young guy, that we ever could have imagined, and a good guy on top of that. And of course, the colleges all around, all the sports, and everybody follows their own college teams, and even Grambling and Southern. They have a big thing called the Bayou Classic every year, and that's a big rivalry between the two schools, and they play a game, and you got to be on one side or the other. There's no middle ground, but it's a lot of fun.
We are allowed state too, though. LSU, they actually call the stadium Death Valley because of the noise, and it's open. And then we've been to the Saints games, a few of them, and it's like nothing new.
Yeah, I was gonna say, ever lose your voice at one of those games before? You're like, every time I go, why do you ask? So,
and I will tell you that it seemed like the fans are just more, I don't know, welcoming to the other teams. I mean, we've been down there and the other teams not be so great that are coming in, but it seemed like the New Orleans people are still, I'll still buy you a beer, you know. We're gonna lose, but we'll give you a beer.
See, that's really nice. Then we talk about some states actually do have state holidays. Are there any holidays that you're aware of for the state of Louisiana that are prominent that come up?
I mean, other than Mardi Gras, and I mean, I don't know if I would really consider it a holiday. All the colleges close. Most of the schools south of Alexandria do close, sometimes depending on what's going on. The day of the Monroe Parade, the ones in the north part will close. But the whole state celebrates Mardi Gras. It's not just a New Orleans thing. I mean, you can go to a great parade in Lafayette. Shreveport has a huge parade.
Yeah, no, Baton Rouge has a huge one.
Yeah.
And they have, even in Baton Rouge, they have different sections. I mean, they'll have the East Baton Rouge parade, and then you'll have the other Baton Rouge parade. Now, it would be hard to mention. I mean, you have to mention the Cajun Mardi Gras, the Corps de Mardi Gras, whatever it is. It's a whole different thing. It's they dress up in masks, but it's like old timey mask, like old potato sack kind of thing. And
they're gonna come to your house and get your chickens.
And they're gonna come to your house and they're gonna get something for the gumbo. Now you got to give them something. You got to give them they're on horseback and they drive around the country. I mean, you know, the little countrysides, and they'll come to your house and you got to give them the onions. You got to give them something for this gumbo, and you throw it out there to them. It could be a chicken. It could be the the whatever. I mean, rice. I mean, just whatever
they want to mix in there. It's like it's a welcome pot to everybody.
Right.
So.
And they take all this to the town square and they make a big old pot of gumbo and everybody eats it. And that is their Mardi Gras.
That sounds awesome. Now, one other thing I want to make mention of, because I know that Louisiana is a little bit more of a conservative state. However, we were talking earlier about, even though I'm an LGBT member and of my community, there are a lot of different activities that are really prominent. Like, for example, Southern Decadence is a huge thing, and that's associated with Mardi Gras, but it's not necessarily part of Mardi Gras.
Right.
So there are a lot of things that, I mean, obviously, the gay community brings in a lot of money to New Orleans, especially during that time. Like, again, it seems like a welcoming environment, though. I mean, to pretty much anybody.
And there's so many different, I don't want to say groups, I'm going to say so many different people of different races, different, color, different everything. I mean, you were talking about Southern Decadence, Labor Day weekend, that's Southern Decadence. That's, that's the gay community. That's their weekend. You have Essence Festival, which is the Black community. That's their festival. You have Voodoo, and that is the strange. Anything you're into, go on down there to Voodoo Fest, which is Halloween. But I mean, it's so many different things. And we've been to a lot of them. I mean, it's fantastic. It's a sweet thing. I mean, it's, I don't know. It's just like everybody is so welcoming, not judgmental.
Yeah, I think Louisiana is, and even though we were considered a conservative state, like you said, but the whole state is very welcoming of anything, basically. Right. It's like, we believe in God and we're going to pray and do what we do on our end, but we're not going to judge you. Our 90-year-old neighbor, for example, I mean, her sister is gay and she doesn't think anything of it. And that's somebody from a totally different generation. I mean, it's just, I think we have been for a long time, but until you're here, people don't realize it. They just look at how we vote.
Yeah. And like, you see people that will look at somebody different because, they're with that person or they're with this person. And whenever we go out, it's like, there's some Louisiana people. I mean, it's just, it's not anything judgmental or anything about it. I mean, it's just, hey, what you got to eat and what you want to eat. You want to come over and get something to eat or a glass of tea, I'll give you some. We got some.
That's sweet. All right. And moving on to population centers. Now, I look at this map and I see a couple of really big red areas. Can you tell me, obviously, I think this down here is probably New Orleans.
That is New Orleans.
But as we continue to move this direction, what are these other population centers that we're seeing here?
Baton Rouge,
That's Baton
and then
Rouge.
that's going to be the Lafayette area, and then Lake Charles,
Okay. And then up here, a little bit more in the center,
Alexandria.
Alexandria.
Alexandria, yeah.
Okay. And then
Monroe,
Monroe. And then finally over here,
Shreveport.
Shreveport. Okay. So, and it seems like there are definitely some rural areas where I don't necessarily think of farming as a big thing in Louisiana, but you were saying obviously corn, cotton is a huge thing down there as well. So, I mean, those are definitely some huge cash crops that come from that area. As we continue to move into like the employers though within the area, I mean, CenturyLink is a huge one. Odyssey Aquarium is another one that's down specifically in the New Orleans area. Fairmont Hotels and Resorts. Let's see. Amedisys is another one. And specifically Entergy is the name of the company. They do a lot of oil and gas, and the state of Louisiana does a lot of hiring. Any other companies, nonprofits, anything that I have left off that are fairly sizable?
Well, the thing is a lot of our people, even up in North Louisiana, all the way down south, they work in the oil and gas industry, but those headquarters are in Texas or Oklahoma or whatever. But there's a ton of oil and gas
Yeah,
people. That's where most of.
Yeah, basically, the Lake Charles area down below there, whenever a hurricane hits there, that's when your gas goes up because all of the refineries are there.
Yeah.
This is for everywhere. I mean, it's for all over the United States. And whenever you have something hit, all of a sudden California, your gas is going up. New York, your gas is fixing to go up because we had this hurricane. I mean, it affects everyone in the state. And, the state of Louisiana tourism is probably, I would say, the biggest thing in this state as far as money goes. I mean, New Orleans alone, Baton Rouge, the colleges, the football, all these different things are huge. And we try to spread it out all over because you have LSU bringing in millions and millions of dollars, for Baton Rouge area and around it. And then you have New Orleans, which is the basketball, football, and the tourism, that's huge, huge, huge. And then of course you have Shreveport and the LSU Medical Center. I met LSU Ochsner's and LSU Medical are all over the state. I mean, LSU has little, I guess fingers off of the university. You have one in Shreveport, you have one in Alexandria, you have all these different little places that that LSU springs off of. It's just educating hospitals, that kind of thing. Well,
here's the thing though, if you didn't go to college as a young boy, if you did not go to college, you either farm. If you don't go to college, you either farm or you're oil and gas.
You work pipeline, yeah. You work
pipeline
or offshore, as they call it. They said, you got to work offshore, which is basically the rigs, the oil rigs out in the Gulf. If you go to, you can go to the farthest you can go in Louisiana, anywhere down there, from Venice to Cocodrie to Holly Beach, Cameron, all these little, and you can look across the Gulf. Grand Isle. You can look out and you can see an oil refinery. I mean, you can see it out there in the rigs, the big rigs out there. You can see it. I mean, and people fish by them. I mean, there's so many of them out there. Offshore fishing is a big deal down there.
Oh yeah, and we even have the oil derricks right off the coast of California too. So I mean, it's not like any place. And again, from an environmental standpoint, it's not like any one place is the predominant over another, although there are some challenges I think that have been unique to Louisiana over the last decade or two that have been a little bit of a challenge that you guys are recovering from, specifically in reference to the BP oil spill that happened. That was obviously a major setback for you guys, but you guys, I think you had said, Ronnie, that you guys have pretty much recovered, or at least it's gotten back to the point where it's been prior to that oil spill.
Still has an effect on some things. You can still go down there and see some effects of it in the marshes, in the places that people don't go really, that there's not going to be a cleanup there. They're going to just kind of leave it. But as far as, the oyster beds, the shrimping and all that kind of stuff is kind of back where it was.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. So let's talk about transportation in the state of Louisiana really quick. Now, when I think of, highway systems and stuff like that, how would you rate your highway system in the state, especially if you do a lot of RVing?
I would say if you're going to go down I-20, 49, or I-10 is probably okay. But yeah, the rest of the state, well, there's so much farm equipment. There's so much of this kind of thing. It tears the roads up, and they just kind of patch it, and you just can't patch it. I mean, there's no reason to patch it because it's going to get like that, you know. Because you can drive a four-wheeler on the road as long as you consider it farm equipment. I mean, it's a state law. I mean, you can just do it. I mean, you can see a line of cars, you know, like what in the world? And it's a combine coming down the road.
It's like backing up everything for miles around. Welcome to Los Angeles traffic, by the way. That's how it feels here sometimes.
Would you please get to your next field, please? You know, that kind of thing. So it's the back roads and the side roads and even just highways. It's bad. I mean, not the interstates is so much, but yeah, it's a bad thing.
In terms of the airports or boat ports, train depots, like what are the big ones that stand out to you?
New Orleans Airport, and they have a train depot there as well. We actually rode the train from Jackson, Mississippi down to New Orleans just to do it.
Just to do it.
And of course, Shreveport has a big airport. Monroe has an airport, but it's not huge. But most everything flies in and out of there.
Yeah, that train that goes to New Orleans, they actually do a Polar Express during Christmas.
Oh, nice.
For the kids, and you can jump on and go down to New Orleans and ride the Polar Express on the way down. So and it goes to Chicago.
I think it goes all the way up to Chicago. Yeah.
I think from New Orleans to Chicago is the line. So jump on it where you can.
I think it was $50, wasn't it, to ride from Jackson to New Orleans?
That's not bad at all.
The trolleys in New Orleans is always a great thing too. The streetcars, you know, that's another little something that's kind of fun.
So let me ask you a question then. Let's say, for example, I want to go down there because maybe I want to take a cruise out of New Orleans. Flying from LAX into New Orleans, arriving at the airport there. How far from the airport would you say it is to get first off to New Orleans and then from New Orleans proper in order to get to, say, the port itself?
Oh, it's not far.
No, it's not far at all. It wouldn't take you very long because you would be on the major road, and it would tell you where to get off it. But if you wanted to go like into the French Quarter, you know, I say you're going to stay in the French Quarter or something like that.
What was our Uber drive from there to the quarter? Maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
Oh, that's not bad at all.
They know where they're going. I mean, that's to the quarter too. I wasn't even to the port. I mean, the port wouldn't take you no time. But
it's pretty. Of course, we've never been to any other ports, but we've heard, you know, others describe them. The New Orleans cruise port is very easy to get into.
Oh, yeah.
Good parking. I mean, I do recommend parking at the port though. Don't fall for those other places.
Yeah,
Park at the port.
Pay the money and just park at the port.
What is the cost per day? You know,
$20.
$20 per day. That's nothing compared to out here in California.
You'll have 10 and 15, you know, holding their signs up because they know you're leaving, but just pay the $20 to be done with it.
And
we did.
No, that sounds good actually. And then for the cruises that leave out of that area, based on your experience, where have they gone to primarily? Has it been mostly Cozumel or?
Cozumel's the big one. Yeah, that's the first stop, but they go everywhere.
Yeah, well, we went. So their last cruise was Cozumel, Key West. No, we didn't go to Cozumel, did we?
I don't even remember. The Bahamas, Key West.
Yeah, but you can go to Grand Bahamas,
Honduras,
Roatan,
Jamaica.
Jamaica. There's several.
Cayman Islands.
It's just according to what cruise you get on. We were on the Royal Caribbean this last time, but Carnival, you know, they're out of there too, and so is Norwegian.
Do you guys have a preferred cruise line that you guys are loyal to or that you like more than others?
Well, I tell you, Carnival Cruise Line is the one we've done the most. And all the other cruises, except for the Royal. We've done because the Royal ship is a smaller ship. It was actually the Carnival Dream we were on. That was a huge ship. It was it wasn't the biggest, but it's a big ship.
But I will tell you though, we've done a lot of Carnival cruises. I've done more than him.
Yeah.
And we've done one Royal Caribbean,
right.
And I have gotten, I don't even know how many free cruise offers from them. I've never got a cruise offer from Carnival ever. I mean, discounted, but because I played in the casino.
That's what we have the same thing too. We played in the casino like a couple times, and then all of a sudden, boom, we get like, oh, we'll comp you an entire cruise. Just come back here.
Yeah,
We have some free cookies for you, or whatever. It's like we'll give you a bottle of wine with your stuff. We'll give you a free cruise. So
Royal Caribbean did that. Carnival won't do that, but Carnival.
I mean, they'll give you a discount. They'll give you a casino rate, but
Yeah.
not the free.
well, I'm okay. So I and my husband love to gamble. I mean, we're only about 4 hours from Vegas. So, and yeah, right, exactly. And so he spent a lot of money with Carnival one time. And on the ship, we were getting like, we had free cookies that we had inside of our cabin, and they would give us a bottle of wine with our meal, which we had no idea about. And so now he's getting like these crazy offers. Like I'll get like a little bit of a discount thing. He's getting like free balcony for like a 2-week period if he wants to do stuff. I'm like, are you crazy? That's insane. So yeah.
Well, my point is, I spent the same amount of money on the Royal that I normally do on Carnival, and I haven't gotten that. But Royal, off of one trip, did better. But anyway.
Okay, and here's the other thing I want to know about Louisiana. Okay, so let's say I don't want to go during Mardi Gras season. All right, what's the biggest tourist attractions, would you say, in the state during that time? Just any time of the year.
It's basically the state. I mean, there's of course you have hunting and fishing, but if you start going down toward South Louisiana, you have airboat rides. You have the Tabasco factory. You have
Avery
Island.
Yeah, definitely recommend going there. Just don't go into the Tabasco room, but
yeah, you want to eat Tabasco again if you get that in your notes. But the mash room. But anyway,
have you had a COVID test? Believe me, I get it. So
they have an amazing aquarium in New Orleans. They have an amazing zoo in New Orleans. Their zoo is top notch. I mean, it really
Shreveport has a lot to offer too. I mean, they have the Cyport there,
and the gambling. I mean, you have Harris in New Orleans. You have all the casinos in Shreveport. There's a ton of over there.
All of our casinos have to be on water.
Yeah.
By the way,
it's that's funny that you mentioned that. It was the same thing when I went to Mobile, Alabama. Or not Mobile, Alabama. I'm sorry. I went through Mobile, Alabama from Florida to Biloxi, and Biloxi was the same thing where you had to actually be fit. Like they would have these hotels that were literally on a barge in the middle of a lake, and it's like, okay, why isn't it on? Well, there's a law about it, so I'm like, okay, whatever.
Right.
Do you guys have riverboats also, or
Indian reservation? I think we have one.
Yeah, if it's on the Indian reservation, that's two. Cashadow and the one down.
Yeah, that can be land based, but everything else has to be on water.
Do you guys have riverboats, by the way, or
what was that?
Do you guys have riverboats on the Mississippi, or is it something that you guys?
New Orleans, yeah, New Orleans has got one. They have a dinner and a show. I mean, they have dinner and a jazz band on one of them that runs out of New Orleans. There's just so much to do. The city park in New Orleans. There's actually an art museum there. I mean, they have the Warhol paintings and all. I mean, it's a top-notch thing. I mean, there's just good Lord, there's so much to do. It'll be hard to find something not to do because, of course, you have Bourbon Street, which is that's partied up, and look at the unclothed girls. Yeah. But you can go to jazz clubs and see live music on Frenchman Street, especially. I mean, it's fantastic.
But up here, and of course, we got Duck Dynasty. People still go see that type of thing. But from here, kind of headed toward mid part of the state, I mean, there's a lot of antebellum homes that you can tour. And we love doing that. I mean, our house we live in is 150 years old, but
oh wow.
Love going to the old antebellum homes and doing the tours. Sometimes they'll put on a show, they'll be dressed in the period clothing and that type of thing. That's always a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've actually stayed at one or two that down there. It's I mean, slavery is a blight, I mean, it's a black eye on
society.
Society in the state especially, because I think there's so many plantation homes. There's so many of them. And of course they didn't know what to do with them because they were so huge. I mean, the money that these people had was incredible. I just can't imagine. But anyway, they turn them into bed and breakfasts, and you learn about the history of it and who owned it and what he did and what he didn't do and how many kids they had and all these different kinds of things, which is interesting. I mean, the history of it is very interesting.
But I do totally recommend when you come to any area, try to get a bed and breakfast because it's got a lot of history. The house is going to have a lot of history and a lot of spooky stories to go with it.
Another thing,
the myrtles.
Yeah. I was just fixing to say another thing on the what to do. The Myrtles Plantation, which is supposedly the most haunted, house on the planet, one of them anyway. And then I was needed to mention the World War II Museum in New Orleans.
Oh yes.
Now that is amazing. I mean, they actually have tanks and airplanes and all this kind of stuff. It's huge. It would take you a couple of days to go through the whole thing. I mean, it's that big. But yeah, the haunted Louisiana is a big draw for a lot of people.
Yeah, and in fact, you guys just did a vlog on, well, correct me if I'm wrong, the Louisiana Swamp Monster. I mean, what's that all about?
Yeah, have you seen that one? Because if you haven't seen it, you need to see it. That was a little Halloween special that we actually did.
The Rougarou.
Yeah, the Rougarou. It's the Swamp Monster. There's actually in the Louisiana the zoo at the Audubon Zoo down in New Orleans actually has an exhibit of the Louisiana Swamp Monster. And Audubon, we forgot about him. The famous painter of the birds.
Oh yeah.
He's got a big presence down in the area, New Orleans, and even up in St. Francisville.
Right. He actually he would kill his birds. He was a marksman. He would kill his birds. And then that's where his paintings are actually of dead birds.
Yeah, but he would.
That is a little eerie.
There's little stuff like that, there's so many little corners and there's so many little turns and you can go from one extreme to another extreme in just a split second in Louisiana.
We actually, and they just announced that they're ending it because of COVID last year. And then the year before we had some floods. But here in Winsboro, we have the biggest one-day festival in the state, the Catfish Festival. Oh. So there's something to do all over the state. There really is.
Yeah, there's you can go to any website. I mean, you go to the website Louisiana State Fairs and Festivals, I think is Fairs and Festivals. And there's a list and it just any month you want, any time of year that you want, and you can find one. They're all over, from a corn festival to a peach festival, to watermelon festival, rabbit festival, oyster festival, tomato festival, fried chicken festival. I mean, it goes on and on and on, and it's whatever floats your boat, you can go.
That sounds awesome. By the way, if you guys are ever interested in coming out to California and you like a good ghost story, we have the Queen Mary out here, and that's got its own built into that. And that's got a great port, by the way, if you're ever wanting to head up either to Northern California, to Vancouver and Alaska, or if you want to head down south to Mexico and all that kind of stuff. Just let me know if you're going to come out there, and I'll be your driver for the day. Now, in terms of the government of Louisiana, it's a red state. I mean, so you have a little bit of a conservative government, both for federal as well as state and local for the most part, except when you get towards the more populated areas like New Orleans, which is a little bit more of a bluer, I think, government down that area, at least, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it is. I think it actually.
Governor.
There's a Democratic governor. I mean,
that's right. Yeah.
It kind of changes from time to time. It's like I don't know. It's the governors of Louisiana have always been so flamboyant, I guess you would say, up until maybe Dave Sheen.
Yeah.
But you had you had a Huey P. Long, you had Earl Long, you had Edwin Edwards, who still lives in Gonzales, and he's 100 years old probably.
Wow.
Good Lord. But these were the kind of country boys back in the day that you just did not debate because they could just talk a mile long, and just embarrass you. And you just did not want to debate these guys because most of them were crooked. Let's just get that out there. They were, and they wanted to do what they wanted to do when they wanted to do it. I think Kathleen Blanco during Katrina kind of changed all that because she was I'm assuming first woman governor of Louisiana. And, she got a bad rap for handling Katrina, but I don't think anyone could have handled Katrina.
I don't either.
And it's kind of like Trump too. Trump gets a bad rep for handling COVID, but I don't think anyone knew what the hell was coming. You know, I mean, it's just whether you like him or don't like him or her. She was. I mean, there were people in New Orleans that were just sitting on the side of the road dead for 2 or 3 days. I mean, it was just a bad thing. And it choked me up to this day. I not watch some of the stuff because I get mad and I get sad and I get emotional of it. Mm-hmm. But she did the best she could do. And there just was no one knew what to do really.
In Louisiana, I mean, we have changed. I was raised and my mama's mama was raised and her mama's mama was raised. Democrat is for the poor man, Republicans for the rich man. That's how it was. Everybody was Democrat. But now
things have changed
totally
around.
Shifted.
It's like,
it's totally shifted.
Yeah, you just don't know. I mean, it's like it's a crazy world we live in. It's just there's so much I don't want to say violence. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding. I think a lot of it is one person's thinking one way and they don't want to change the way they're thinking. And it's going to have to take a change of thinking from someone to get things the way it goes. No matter what your core belief is, there's a tolerance that has to be made. You have, on both sides. I mean, there has to be a tolerance for, I mean, everyone's right to do whatever they want to do, basically. I mean, it's, as long as it's not killing
within
people,
reason,
that's like, you got to figure out a way to communicate. I think that's the main thing.
And I think that's really one of those things that we're lacking right now is that really good communication that we used to have as a union. So let's talk about some of the resources that are down in Louisiana. Obviously, we've touched base on oil and gas. Shipbuilding is another thing that's been really big, that especially as you get down to the south. Any other things that strike you? Obviously, we talked a little bit about cotton. We talked a little bit about corn. Clay is another thing that's apparently a good resource that's down in that area. One thing I was coming across was water specifically. I wasn't sure if there was actually like water bottling, or if that was a big thing there.
There are springs here, but I don't think anyone bottles it. I know there are springs here, but I mean, our springs are not 20 miles up the road, and there's one up there close to Sterlington, yeah. But I don't know that anyone bottles water. If they do, I wouldn't. I don't know either.
But you were also obviously talking about the seafood as well, was another big thing that was huge in the area too.
Yeah, and the rice too. I think they figured out that they can take rice and they can take the husk off the rice and it can be a biofuel. So that is it's kind of taken over for cotton just a little bit. I mean, they're still cotton farmers, but cotton farmers used to be the whole state. I mean, the whole state was cotton, but I think we over harvested or over planted or whatever.
Then you got your seasonings too. Yeah. We got Tabasco and Crystals and Louisiana hot sauce and Tony Satcheries
and all the cayenne. I mean, you have the cayenne pepper, all these different things. These
canola.
Yeah, we actually they have a pecan oil place here, in Winsboro. I mean, these are seasonings and different things to do the cooking that we do. I mean, it's as far as Cajun seasonings go, I mean, you have Tony Satcheries, which is the big, kind of like an Old Bay, I guess, for the rest of the world. But it's that's the big thing here is a Tony's. I mean, everybody just puts Tony's on everything, but there's so many different ones of those, like Slap Your Mama and everybody that makes a hot sauce makes a Creole seasoning, and of course Tabasco is big all over the world. So
I heard you mention pecan, and are pecans like a big thing in your area?
Pecan, yeah.
Pecan, sorry.
Y'all say pecan, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry, that's my accent coming out. Sorry.
Pecans are huge. I mean, we had farms around here. We still have farms here.
Yeah, my grandfather actually was. That's what he did. He was a pecan orchard manager, basically, back in the day.
Yeah. Cracked pecans and seasoned pecans. You can have candied pecans.
But if you haven't tried the pecan oil, I don't know if y'all can get it where you are. I know I've seen, we saw some in Tennessee this past weekend, but they actually make it here in our town, and it is phenomenal. And it's healthier than most other oils available.
They say healthier than olive oil. So
And then you can cook with a higher heat on it.
I was going to say that's because currently I cook with either flaxseed oil or avocado oil, and those have a high temperature. But you're saying pecan oil is. I'm trying. Um, but pecan oil is like has a high burning point, is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, very cool. Good to know. Thank you. Education. Let's talk about education in your state. Obviously, the colleges. There's a ton of them. LSU is the one that came to mind, but obviously Louisiana Tech has been around since the late 1800s. University of Louisiana has been around forever. Like I think also late 1800s. Southeastern Louisiana University. There's a couple I'm leaving off as well that you mentioned earlier, correct?
Yeah, well, actually, one other one that's big, and that's Tulane University. Tulane University is a big.
That's down south too, but ULM Monroe, huge pharmacy school. Right. People from all over the country come and out of the country come to ULM to get their pharmacy degree. ULL Lafayette. Our daughter actually went to school there. She's a dancer. And they have a art program there. So she went there. She actually is back up here. She's a dance teacher now, and they just opened up Parish Ballet. Right. So yeah. Right. So and then our son, he graduated from Thibodeau at Nickel State, but then he got his master's at Tech.
Okay.
In accounting.
Yeah.
You were saying also there's a historically black college that's down in that area too, correct?
Grambling University.
Okay.
It is probably 2 miles from Louisiana Tech. Maybe it's just up the road. It's the next exit off of I-20.
Really good nursing program there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They will leave Tech and finish up at Grambling. I mean, that's how big it is. You know, you'll finish up there, go to Grambling, and finish up your nursing degree. And of course, Eddie Robinson was the big football coach there. There's actually Eddie Robinson Museum there. And Grambling was a force back in the day. It really was.
And Terry Bradshaw, wasn't he from Tech?
And Terry Bradshaw is from Louisiana Tech. Yes, and that's right. We have a few stars. Paul Malone. There's several big sports stars. You know.
In general, let me ask you really quick. The literacy rate for those, especially in the rural communities, tends to be a little bit lower. Would you agree with that statement? Because and it's not necessarily anybody's fault, other than saying that it seems like the money is being moved more towards the city and where the taxes are located at, rather than the rural communities. Is that
there's a poverty level here that's really not even talked about. I mean, there's I know Lake Providence, Louisiana, is in the north corner. Oak Grove and Kilburn and Forest and Pioneer, all these little bitty towns. And then you cut across over to Beekman and Log Cabin and all these little towns. And then even around here, down at Wisner and different places like that, these little towns, when they consolidated these schools to like parish schools, they killed the regular small town. Because people left. I mean, there was nothing there. I mean, you had basically you can go down, you can get some gas at these places, but there's not really going to be anything else other than a little convenience store.
Well, and even our children, like our son, I mean, both of our kids were valedictorians, both of them 4.0 GPAs. Wow. They were really smart. But the school that our son went to over in Richland Parish, if you were not in the honors program, you really couldn't learn. The classes are out of control. I mean, I don't know what they can do to fix it, but there is no control. And a lot of it is because of these impoverished areas that their parents may or may not be home, or, you know, and I'm not saying because you're poor that you don't care about your kids' education. A lot of them do, but a lot of them don't. And that's why they're in that situation. And I mean, kids would be climbing on the desk, and, you know, they had one Spanish class that wasn't honors, because they didn't offer it. Our kids know no Spanish, and they both got 100 in that class.
It's something. It's
But the honors classes were different, and it's almost like I'm going to separate the kids that are a little smarter and put them over here so they can actually learn. But then on the other hand, you're doing a disservice to the ones that are just in that group. You know,
well, you can't duck away from it. I mean, it's a black and white issue here in Louisiana. There is a black and white issue, and when they consolidated the schools, I mean, private schools popped up all over. You know, their charter schools, they were turning people away because, you know, people didn't want to do this. They didn't want to segregate. I mean, they didn't want not segregate, integrate.
Integrate.
But anyway, they would take, like, let's just take Rayville, for example, up here in North Louisiana. You took Holly Ridge, you took Stark, you know, part of Delhi, and all these different Mangum and all these little towns, and kind of put them together. And then all of a sudden you have I guess a ratio that was off kilter, basically. You know, you had all these little white little schools, and then all of a sudden you put them over here. Well, a lot of them weren't going to put the kids in those schools. Then it seemed like it separated it, but then it kind of made it worse.
And I don't know that I 100% agree with you on that.
What's that?
I mean, I agree to a certain level, but you graduated from Start, which was predominantly white. I graduated from Rayville, which was predominantly black.
Right.
It was just a different. I mean,
I think the time.
I'm educated.
I
we got a good
I
education there. I think it is the time.
I think you are right with the time. But you're right with the time.
And that's where I chose to go. We actually moved to a community that was Holly Ridge, that was predominantly white, but I wanted to stay with all my friends. You know, that's who I grew up with. But we learned, and there was no honors classes, and nobody was separated. We were all together, and we were family, and we all learned. But today, in today's society, it's just different. It is. It's just different. So that contributes to.
I think the cell phones is a big deal too.
That's probably true. Technology sometimes has a good thing, and sometimes it's not such a good thing, especially when it comes to interrupting the classes. Although we are seeing a lot of people, and for those of my students who are not fully immersed in this, I'm steeped in it all the time. Being in higher education, I get the chance to see literacy statistics from across the board, whether it's K through 8 to 12 to college levels, and we're really seeing a lot of interesting things that are emerging with the technologies like this, what you're seeing right now through Zoom. It's a tool. It's not necessarily to be able to completely make up the opportunities, because you can have a bad teacher or bad facilitator regardless of what kind of a schooling experience you have. But if you have availability of some levels of technology, sometimes it can get a little bit easier for even some of the more impoverished people if they have access to that technology. And that's the key issue there too.
Well, we were talking about that earlier. When we were coming back from the Smoky Mountains, we were like, well, how are we going to get signal? Because I had a premiere going on. And I'm like, well, I got my laptop, but I don't have, signal. So we were like, well, we'll do like what everybody else does. We'll go to a small town. We'll park in front of the library, and use some Wi-Fi. But then there are places, especially in Louisiana, there are places that don't have that. There we have, when we talk about country people, especially down south in the Grand Bayou and all these kind of places, they have a boat. I mean, they have to boat wherever they go, and if there's no Wi-Fi, they're not going to be on a Zoom meeting, and they have their own little schools. But if that school's not letting people in, then all of a sudden these kids are just not going to school. And there's a lot of that up here. I think
it's going to get worse.
People just not going to school.
It's really tough. Last major topic that we're going to touch base on really quick is safety and security. Now, in terms of terrorism threats and things like that, I don't really know that I want to say there was a theater shooting a few years ago that was down in Louisiana, but I think that's the only thing I'm really familiar with. Anything else that pops out to mind for you guys?
Like I said, Lafayette, that shooting was at that movie theater. That was just horrible, and it shocked us. I mean, you see that stuff all over the world, and then you're like, these people are crazy, and then all of a sudden this happened in Louisiana. It's like, what in the heck?
But it's not a regional thing though, because I mean, even here in California, for example, we don't have there is a very strong campaign against firearms in California, but nonetheless, I want to say a couple of years ago we had a homegrown terrorist from Riverside County that went out and shot up a bunch of people that they worked with at the county of Riverside. And that was that. I mean, sometimes stuff can just get crazy, and it's just we never know with the circumstances within a person's life, kind of what's going on with them. And it's not necessarily political and it's not necessarily religious, but it can be. I mean, I guess it just depends on what the nature of the whole situation is.
Right.
And I guess it could be worse here in Louisiana, because I don't know anybody that don't own a gun. I mean, it's that kind of, I mean, it's just what we were brought up with. Everybody's got a, you start out with a little 14 shotgun to go squirrel hunting with, and you go on up to a,
Right.
automatic. I mean, everybody has 3, 4, 5, 6 guns in the house. I mean, it's just, you have your deer rifle, your squirrel rifle, your rabbit gun. I mean, the alligator gun, all these different kinds of things. But
it's not like the Old West there either.
it's not. It's really not. It's I would say crime rate in the cities are above normal, well above normal.
Like we were talking about earlier, Monroe is typically in the top, at least in the top 10 for crime per capita.
When it used to be New Orleans.
But it's not
Orleans
like you were saying, it's not like a terrorism type thing. It's like,
it's just
guy next door, I'm going to go shoot him because he got my drugs or whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
Does Monroe have a drug issue up in the Monroe area or anything like that? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yes, and all over. I mean, it's in Baton Rouge and New Orleans. It's just one of those things. It's you have a lot of crime. There's a lot of crime. I mean, it's a lot of not so much.
We have a lot of homeless.
Yes.
I mean, I know some of the big areas you probably see it all the time, but like you go to New Orleans, there's, I mean, every street you walk down, there's homeless people on the street. There's a lot of homeless in Monroe and Shreveport and everywhere else too.
Sure.
Okay. Well, I want to end on a positive note though. Okay. So we're going to do a quick 1-minute elevator speech. Okay. I want to give this over to you guys. You guys are my travel agents. Okay. I'm looking to go to New Orleans. Why do I want to go to New Orleans? Give me a quick 1-minute speech of why I should want to go there.
I don't think,
or not just New Orleans, but Louisiana in general, I should say.
Yeah. You'll never experience anything like New Orleans as far as the culture, diversity, the food, just being on the streets. Like even us, we call it the city. When we go to the city, I mean, it is like a feeling I can't describe to you. I can't describe it to you. Louisiana in general, yes, there's a lot to offer here. But if you come to Louisiana, drive all the way through, eat the boudin, eat the cracklings, eat the food, but end up in New Orleans, and you'll get the feeling. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you'll see the people. You go into the bar and get you a drink, and you walk right out of the bar with that drink and walk down the street with that drink. And because there is no open container law, in New Orleans. I mean,
you can be whoever you are.
That's right. Lift your shirt up and let somebody throw you some beads. And
you might get arrested for that. Though.
Yeah, but it's not just Mardi Gras. It's Mardi Gras all the time. It's a party down there 24/7. It's a lot of culture down there. There's even just 10-minute drive from New Orleans. You can take a helicopter ride over New Orleans. You can jump on an airboat and do a swamp tour. You can jump on a guy feeding alligators over here to the side. I mean, there's
so much diversity here. I don't think there's any other state in the country where you can get the diversity that you can in Louisiana.
No. Just like I was talking about the open container law, you can drive up to a daiquiri place, and as long as you don't put the straw in it, you're good. So,
well, that's all fantastic. Again, Ronnie, Teresa, thank you so much for sharing that. If people wanted to see more of your travels, you guys have a YouTube channel called the Traveling Gilberts, which is amazing. As I was making mention to my students earlier, there's a fantastic, you guys just did a Halloween episode, which is fun. There's a lot of other great content on your sites. And the best way for them to get that would either to go onto YouTube or on Facebook. They can find you at the Traveling Gilberts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yes,
we have a page and a group on Facebook. I do have an Instagram as well. We have one. I forgot about that earlier.
Yeah.
We have Instagram as well, and then of course the YouTube channel, the Traveling Gilberts, no apostrophe.
Yeah, no apostrophe. But it's just a lot of fun. We try to throw some fun in. We like to show people things maybe they won't see. Just everyday things. We like to hit the little back corners in the back,
Mm-hmm.
All the little different places. But try to show you something that you might not have seen before.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the great thing about your site is it's not just restricted to cruising. It's a variety of different travels. I definitely want to, if you guys are open to it in the future, I'd love to have another interview with you guys just about your channel to find out more about it. And that way my students can find out more about it too. Is that cool with you guys?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, Teresa and Ronnie, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview with me. It's really appreciated. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you
Well,
for having us.
thank you for having us. We had a great time.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Now, for my students that are out there, if you have any questions, comments, anything comes up, you can always send me an email at scott@theprofessortravel.com. If you're on YouTube right now and you want to be notified about when new videos go up, hit that bell icon right above us here in order to be notified. If you haven't already done so, please feel free to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. I promise I won't charge you for it. And then, of course, if you like like this content, you want to see more of it, give us a thumbs up. Now, if you're on the podcast listening to this, please, of course, rate us. We really do appreciate it. But until next time, I'm Scott. This is the Professor Travel, and make every day a travel adventure. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.